Good morning, everyone, and welcome to 1 Million Cups Fort Worth. I'm LeBeau, one of the organizers. We have Angela Burns, another organizer, Amy Furr, Satari Ali Akbar, and Beatrice Francinescu. And there's many other organizers, but I just wanted to acknowledge them for all the great work they do behind the scenes. Thank you all. So we're going to go into a little bit about what 1 Million Cups is for those who are going to be watching this replay. And let me just share my screen. Give me 1 second. Oh, Angela, are you already a co-host? Let me make sure you're a co-host so that you can let folks in. Here you go. Okay. All right. So we are 1 Million Cups, and we are caffeinating entrepreneurs nationwide every Wednesday at 9 a.m., rain or shine. So the Kauffman Foundation works with communities in entrepreneurship and education to increase opportunities that allow all people to learn, to take risks, and own their success. And the mission of 1 Million Cups is to lower the barriers of access to education, resources, and connection for all types of new and aspiring entrepreneurs throughout the United States. That we work toward this mission through creating a consistent educational experience for each 1 Million Cups presenter nationwide, and while also highlighting the uniqueness and value proposition in each local startup community. And these are just a few of the locations. Make sure that you're checking to see if there's one provided in your area. And if there's not, find out how possibly you can start your own 1 Million Cups. But you can hop around and try out the different virtual 1 Million Cups that are available. So these are presentations, not pitches. We want to foster authentic connections and not just networking. This is run for the community and by the community, radically and intentionally inclusive. So it's held every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Usually we have 2 presenters. Sometimes we'll just have 1, but usually we'll have 2 presenters, and they'll both get 6 minutes to talk about their business, and then 20 minutes of question and answering. That question and answering time is not about, interrogating anyone or, anything like that. It's more about giving positive feedback, resources, connections, and many other things that can be useful. So we have a couple of requirements if you are considering wanting to present, and those requirements are: your business has to be less than 5 years old. You have to have a desire to learn. And one other thing that's not on this presentation is that you have to have a website. So we always want to ask at the end of the 1 Million Cups presentation, what can we as a community do to help you? And this is always going to be free and open to the public. And we usually have free coffee, but we're virtual now, so you have to bring your own. It's very easy to apply to present. All you have to do is go to 1millioncups.com /present. And if you want to present at ours, you just go to 1millioncups.com /Fort Worth, or FW actually. So that'll be all. Just make sure that you are on mute. And this meeting is being recorded so that if you miss anything, you can go back and listen and share with other folks as well. So with that being said, I want to introduce Samuel. Is it Samuel Jean? Jenny. All right, sorry about that. Samuel Jenny, and he is from Sparks Dating app. And so he's going to talk about who they are and what they have going on. So without further ado, I'm going to make you a co-host so you can share. All right, and there you go. You have the floor.
So the last time I spoke with 1 Million Cups, we were in our development stage and we're still talking to users and getting their feedback and wanting to know how to improve our app. And since then, we have been able to garner investment and also relaunch our final version at USC over there in California from support that we have accumulated over the course of our development process of the MVP. So of course, Spark's dating company is better discounts, better community, and better dates. So this little floating meme bar. But what the problem that we're facing, that we know so a lot of people are facing, is people want to go on real dates. I mean, it's a lot of guys and girls just want to go out and have some more fun and actually enjoy life instead of being glued virtually to their screens. So the barriers to this are girls do not feel safe, dating is expensive, dating apps are not that fun, and they do not know enough information about the other person to go out with them. So some of the ways in which we thought we found a solution to that is partner with exclusive venues for their best discount. Users can afford better dates. They have an incentive to go out. It creates a safe space for women to date or vice versa. And users can go out and have more fun. Our second solution to this problem was community groups. Users can share more information about their hobbies. Users can identify with groups that interest them and can have groups that dating apps don't focus on. So I would be entering about, $1 billion market. I mean, I'm going to skip past that part, but my screen, my bad. Thing doesn't like me. So the product, so our product looks kind of like this. So part of the safety features would be shown on the first image on the left. You would see all these like little buttons on the bottom, and the date feature would be able to communicate going on a date with one of our partner venues. And you could click that date button, it will pop up this discount menu on the bottom, and you could click and go through all these discounts we have, and the person could send it to the other user and be like, hey, you want to go get some tacos, or go get some burritos, whatever you want, it's all to you. And then for the community groups, user can identify with 3 to 5 groups. What this would look like is what you see in the second photograph. And there are 2 types of groups. There's user groups where people don't have to match with other users. And then there's matching groups where users can match with people with the same interest. And then on the far right, it's a kind of small picture, but users can go into these individualized groups, share information, share what interests them, and you can view like what other interests they have, and be able to understand the individual on a better basis, and they don't have to really show their face in these photos. It kind of gives you a glimpse of who they are as a person. And that is pretty much it for Sparks.
Love it. In and out. I think he had time to spare, right, Amy? Right. Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you for that presentation. Great app, is serving a really great need. A lot of the things that you talked about, women not feeling safe, dating being expensive these days. Yeah, those are 2 big things that are an issue for college students, especially. So while I'm going to start asking questions to give everybody time to put in their questions and comments and advice in the chat box. But one of my questions is, how long did it take to develop your app, and how many developers do you have on your team?
So our MVP, so what you saw is the final version of what we're going to create, but our MVP took about somewhere between 1 to 6 months, and that was just due to bugs and getting them fixed. And then Apple like being very difficult with us to get this MVP published because we're like, hey, we're not expecting something like fancy. We just want to get this MVP out and test whether people like, you know, the basic discount method.
Interesting.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
And we currently have 3 developers on the team, and we are about to add a 4th developer who is from USC. He's a part-time professor at USC who teaches app development over there. And he'll be joining the team here within a week to develop the final version.
Interesting. And some comments and questions are coming in. I want to ask one more to give more people a chance to get in their questions. Okay, so how long will you have before, I'm trying to find the right way to word this. You have folks on your team that are, I guess they're co-founders, you know, that are developing, or they just vendors or contractors? They're co-founders with you?
So I have 2 co-founders. One's a non-technical co-founder. He's been with me since the beginning, and he's planning on staying in the long run. The second one's a technical co-founder, and he's a developer from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I used to attend the same university he did, and he's working on the development of the app.
Okay. And so you said you already got your first round of investment. When do you feel like you're going to have to start raising another round to move forward?
I would say after our launch of our MVP. So we would be testing a course at USC, as I mentioned earlier. And over the course, we expect it to actually really go far. Of course, only time will tell, but we do expect that. And then at that moment, we would be wanting to go and get more funding for what we're doing.
When's that launch date?
We're planning on launching right off the back at the start of the semester. We have several members of our team have not only siblings that go to USC, but of course the professor that we have that joined our team also go to USC, and they will be able to implement within their Greek lives and athletics.
Perfect. All right. So we're going to open up for some questions here. Angela or Amy or Satari. Satari hasn't read questions.
Yeah, let's go Satari. Yeah, let's go Satari.
Satari, do you want to read questions?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so we have a question here from Tom. How do you test the usability of the app? And this is like a 3-part question. How does it make profit? And how are you just making profit out of it?
Yes. So the way in which we test the usability of the app is not only have we been producing surveys, but we also have people test our our UI frame. And then once that is complete, we are then having a beta, an alpha, and a kickoff at USC. And then the way the app makes a profit is actually kind of unique compared to all the other apps, because a lot of other dating apps, they just try to like suck the money out of every user they get. They design their UI in that manner. We actually make our revenue from we make our revenue from 3 different sources. We first make it through subscriptions and at a much lower rate than every other competitor. And then secondly, we make a revenue from commissions from each business we partner with. This could be in the form of a 5 to 10% commission, and we only partner with 20 to 40 businesses, so competition does increase. And then finally, it would be advertising because we do have a social media component, but those advertisements wouldn't be, they would have to be in relevance to what we're doing.
Very cool. And then the next, excuse me. I asked this question, what are your current challenges given the state of the pandemic?
I would say our current challenges are actually, to be honest, we've kind of gone through a lot of the challenges, which was acquiring team members. I would say everything else, COVID has actually kind of improved for a lot of other reasons because it leaves businesses more open to wanting to try this product out. But I would say it's acquiring team members.
Interesting. Amy here says, thank you for presenting. The app looks very user-friendly. And then she goes on to say, many dating apps use an algorithm. How would you explain the algorithm if Spark uses one at all?
Yeah, so we're actually taking a little bit more radical approach because a lot of, all these dating apps come out and they're like, hey, we got this new algorithm for like astrology or this new algorithm for like safety. And, we realize people don't match based on at par levels. So Tinder kind of matches you with people who receive the same amount of matches because that's meant to keep you on the app and make you spend more money because they're at what they deem similar levels of interest. But what we do is we actually think people will match with other people who you never expect you'll match with. And we use just a random algorithm, and you can match with people of same interests if you come across it like, oh, I like, football and I want girls or guys that are into football, and you can swipe through people who have that same interest rather than this special algorithm we put in.
So you said that you don't have to put your profile picture, or you don't have to have like a picture of yourself on there. How does that work with like the safety?
Yeah, so we do have to have a picture of yourself on our app.
Oh, okay.
But when it comes to when I was talking about not having a picture of your face, it was in regards to like your interests and hobbies, because a lot of guys, they'll go in and like they love to play football or something, and they show a picture of them throwing the ball and you don't really see their face. But with the community groups, it makes it acceptable to say, I have an interest in this hobby and this is me showing the hobby, and you don't need to see my face to know I'm interested.
Got it. Okay. And then Bill Wong asks, the space is crowded with Match and Bumble. How would you say you're different in these platforms?
Yeah, so the way in which we're different is not only are we not we don't have a specific algorithm, but we are integrating a new aspect of not only discounts, but community groups. I say 2 other dating apps have tried to do groups, which are the League and Clover dating app, but they really weren't able to successfully do it because they didn't really understand their audience they were going after. We understand that a lot of college students match via interest. Like I did rowing club at TCU, and I also was a part of like the Energy Club, and that stuff was really interesting. I actually found my now current girlfriend through an interest in hobby. And that really showed an example, like people do match via their interests and hobbies and what they like to do. So I don't think Bumble really focuses on that. They just have the basic swiping feature, and women make the first move.
Oh, very interesting. Amy asks, how would you describe your vision for the community groups? Are they leisurely or professional, etc.?
So our vision is to kind of give the user some control while also kind of mitigating it. And we want people to be able to create groups of dating that, you can't really find in a lot of dating apps. So let's say, I noticed there isn't really a dating app for gaming. Let's say you go to Albuquerque, New Mexico, a huge gaming city, and users want to match via like people who are interested in gaming too. You know, it creates the area for people to invent new ways of matching with other people that you can't really do in any other dating app because they're restricted by some level. We want it to, you know, as it grows, the communities will become more niche, and that it will just create kind of its own thing, honestly. And that's what we wanted to do, is just grow on its own, and people can match in whatever way they choose.
Very nice. So it's very like interest based. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. And then Angela asks, what is your marketing strategy in this crowded place?
So we do this through three tiers, and we first advertise through our partner businesses. The second way would be through our social media. And then the third way would be whatever, areas we would need to do, but primarily is through partner businesses and social media.
And then LeBeau's kind of going with Angela's question too. How have you marketed so far in the process? And are you looking to expand in phases to colleges only or open to the public?
Yeah, he already answered the first one, but the part, that second question is the one I really want to ask. Are you looking to, and you might have already answered it, are you looking to expand to different colleges, or how are you looking to scale it moving forward?
Yeah, so this kind of ties into what our target audience really is. So, you know, freshmen in university are not really our target audience. Sophomores are kind of on the fence. Juniors and seniors are definitely with our graduates. Those are really our target audience. And we want to start off with colleges. And if it's a successful run at USC, we're going to then expand to other universities within California. And as we get feedback from our users and other university kind of wanting the discount feature, we can then focus our efforts over in those specific areas and then kind of go and grow from there. It would be open to everyone, but it would be marketed towards colleges first.
Very interesting. I'm a college student myself, so I think this is like a great idea. And one suggestion I would say is like ambassador program is huge now, right now, like at different colleges. I know you were saying you're in the California area, but once you like try to like go to different schools, I think ambassador programs are really a way to get your foot into different states. And yeah. And then Angela asks, what help do you need for 1 million cups?
The help I really need is, you know, just like understanding like what users or what people feel about the app, and, you know, just being able to help make the mission much more clear. So our mission statement is to make dating more affordable, fun, and successful. And just spreading the word, honestly, I would just, that's what I would really nail it down to, because it's just from the last help we received at 1 million cups, from the questions we were asked, we were able to really understand on a much more deeper level what we were trying to accomplish. And yes.
Perfect. So thank you, Satari, for reading off those questions. These were great questions. We're going to move on soon to Tom with Corsa. Let me make him a co-host so that he can go ahead and start sharing soon. But I just wanted to say with you, Samuel, I think launching at the campus, right, and then doing surveys, right, to see what people are telling you, and just letting them tell you what they want and what they're thinking. TikTok did the same thing. We did at the TCU campus, actually. there was a campaign when TikTok was like dying because everybody felt like it was just a Vine and Musically knockoff, right? And we did surveys with TCU and probably some other colleges, and they took that information and completely rebranded. And I think the pandemic did a lot as well for TikTok's changing demographic, but just getting the beta testing done, you're going to pivot a lot after that, but just make sure that you tailor it to what people are really asking for and not just how you want to make it better than Bumble. You know what I mean? And outside of that, looking at your mission statement, look at how you can be first at something and not just better. Not just better than Bumble, but different, unique in a certain type of way. And then that way you can take your place and you're in a league of your own and not in direct competition with them. And associating your brand with an emotion or a concept rather than we're better than this app or that app. When you're talking about your mission, just making sure that you know the feelings you want your customers to have when they think about your brand, and just continue to stay aligned with that. So with that said, thank you so
And
much, Samuel. Go ahead.
I would just add on what LeBeau said. Spark is actually the emotion that you're trying to, create with these connections, and that is your niche. And I would also suggest maybe virtual information sessions with a lot of the clubs on colleges, fraternities, and things like that. And you can build upon that. I think you have a unique brand, and again, the catchy name, and that's the emotion you're really trying to tap into versus all the other competitive dating apps. So good luck, and we're here for you. So if you want to come back in a few months after you've done the surveys, come on back and present, and we'll put you on the calendar.
Yep, Angela's right. Thank you, Samuel. And still stay on for Corsa's presentation if you can. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tom now. Tom, you can begin sharing.
Great. Well, it is not letting me share. It says host is disabled participant screen sharing. Sometimes it gets stuck and you've got to do it again, Good morning, everyone. My name's Tom Cox, and I started a company just months before COVID. I want to tell you an exciting story about it. Oh, still won't let me.
Can you put the presentation link in the chat box and possibly Amy can click through?
I don't have a presentation, but what I do is I bring up my website and I discuss it as we go through. I kind of use my website as the presentation. And so it's
just go ahead and drop that link possibly. Then
well, it's really handy if I can switch the pages and stuff and point out to the things that we're discussing, directly. So I mean, we can alter, right? We can adapt and overcome, of course, but if we could make it so I could share, that would be great. So I type a message to everyone. What you want me to do?
So on my end, it shows that everybody can share, but what you can do if you drop that link in, someone that can share can click through it, and you can tell them where to go, and then they'll be clicking it for you. And they'll be able to share it from their screen if you're not able to.
There it goes. Now I'm able to. Okay. 10th time was the charm.
Okay, perfect.
And can everyone see my website?
Yes.
Great. All right. So I started, I'd worked in engineering and a lot in what we call engineering services. And engineering services, what they do is they provide services to other companies or startups, entrepreneurs, to develop products. It's typically what they do. That's what I've done. My background's a lot in medical devices and some commercial devices and some government devices as well. And I decided that I wanted to have some level of ownership in what I'm doing. It's probably a familiar story with anyone who has entrepreneurial leanings. Um, I wanted to have a level of ownership, and I wanted to be able to guide the ship a little bit more than you get to as an employee. In this type of work, there are often ethical considerations, and I was not always happy with the way the ethical considerations were handled in the companies that I've worked for. Um, so Corsa Dynamic Systems is a product development firm that with an emphasis on mechanical design, but has done a little bit of other stuff as well, electrical software, but mostly mechanical. And within the mechanical, there's some emphasis on what we're going to call fluids. In other words, we've got a fluid passing through some tubing or something, and how is this going to react? Is it going to deliver the performance, the flow, velocity, all those kinds of things that people might need? So Corsa is that service company, and Corsa serves anywhere from an individual entrepreneur with an idea to another engineering service company, because the nature of engineering projects is that there's ebb and flow to these types of projects. That means that sometimes a company may not have much need for this type of work, and then sometimes they have a lot of need. And even large companies don't always want to hire the additional staff. They will outsource certain components of the work to other companies, or sometimes to individual contractors that come and work at their site. So uh, so small, medium companies, large companies, and startups. And I really like working with startups. And I'll say that it may not be the most profitable in a way because they're usually struggling with money. But one of the things that it's a lot easier for them to get funding when they have their idea a little bit more developed. So it's very common that they come to Corsa for a certain level of development, maybe a conceptual prototype, maybe a functional prototype, because when you're at a meeting and you're going to put a pitch in for some funding, if you can pull out a working prototype, it really changes the dynamic. People take what you're trying to do a lot more seriously. And when I say working, there's different levels of working. Not everything is production ready, right? But a conceptual or feasibility type prototype. Feasibility means it's just certain basic high risk elements that are worked out. And those are usually the ones that you want to work out first anyway. So Corsa serves those different groups. And what Corsa does for them is not only the engineering and the product development, but I'm going to say that probably the most important part, and one of the things that's hardest to understand, is the definition of what they're trying to do. It's very common that the entrepreneur is very creative. They have a lot of really cool ideas, but they need to focus down on exactly what maybe the initial offering would be. It's you want to go from a Model T to a new Corvette, right? But that's hard to do. When it comes to engineering and product development, it's what can you do that's incremental? What can you do as a minimum product that will start your company generating some revenue that will then enable you to pursue some higher level designs? So that's some of the guidance that Corsa provides, is helping the client define exactly what they want to do. Sometimes we break it up into what we call the problem space and the solution space. Let's define the problem space, because if we don't define it real well, our solution space is not money well spent. And that brings me around to, there's an ethical consideration for all product development. Whether my client ever goes to market or not, I still get paid. So what that means is that for many organizations, they will take their clients' money, and with a hope. Sometimes it's an honest hope, but guiding the client through the high risk elements first before spending money developing the low risk elements safeguards your client's money. And to be very careful with the funds of your client is important. Save those clients' funds, because if this project is not going to be feasible, then they have funds for another project. They haven't burnt those bridges in terms of funding. So that's a really huge thing from an ethical standpoint that needs to be done in product development. So we got this video up. Let me talk a little bit about what's going on here. The world of product development, and I don't know where I'm at on time. Somebody might give me an idea. How far into the 6 minutes am I?
You have about a minute and a half.
Okay. So technology has changed product development a lot. It's made it a lot more affordable, which is tremendous. And I think that we see that in the marketplace. There are so many niche products that there weren't as many niche products 30 or 40 years ago as there are now. And the ability to use CAD, computer aided design, to create this 3D image in the computer, this virtual environment in the computer, and then do testing in this virtual environment. And that means you can stress test it, you can flow fluids through a valve in the virtual without ever building anything. However, there is this balance to be struck between what I'm going to say is analytic mathematics and computer simulation, and empirical, which is making a real prototype, getting it out here in the real world. And I think it's of huge value to prototype and get things in people's hands so that they can form opinions about them. And that part has also become so much less expensive with 3D printing. I was just going to show you some components here. To build a prototype of this 20 years ago, this would have been thousands of dollars. And now the materials to build this were probably $10. I'm giving you an idea that it's the shift in prototyping cost is tremendous. It's 1% of what it was 25 years ago. And that creates less risk for the entrepreneur wanting to develop something, that you can get something for very little money and hold it in your hands. And that's that desire to get things out of the computer and into the client's hand is one of the things that Corsa really emphasizes, that let's get it out of the computer, get it in your hands so you can start forming opinions about it early rather than late.
Perfect. We reached time, Tom, but that was a pretty good explanation about Corsa. I want to give a chance for everybody to start asking questions and make some, and they may have you bring up some of those pages in the questioning. But you all can begin putting questions and suggestions and advice in the chat box. I'm going to start with the ones I have. First of all, this was a great presentation of the website. I love how you had things moving. It was like, watching something. It kept me stimulated while you were talking. So first I want to start with, what can 1 Million Cups do for you before I ask questions?
Well, I'm always open to learning more. And so, interacting with other entrepreneurs, I think is very healthy for an entrepreneur. And it's always good to have another perspective. So I'm looking for other perspectives, and I'm looking for that camaraderie with other entrepreneurs. It's so fun to see something go from nothing to something. That's an infinite change. That's really exciting. It's one of the reasons I like doing startup type companies. And then of course, just to get the word out that there is another option for product development. In this world, the way things have shifted, I have 2 clients that are out of state right now. At one time, and it wasn't even that long ago, a company like this would have done a lot of local service, right? Proximity creates opportunity. And that's still true. It may not be quite as true as it once was, but it's still true. So to reach out and make yourself known in your community, and I'm in Plano, and I lived in Grand Prairie for over 20 years. So the Dallas-Fort Worth area is my community. And so to be known in your community is, I think, good business, right? So that's the ways is camaraderie, education, and awareness. That's how A Million Cups can help me.
Perfect. And I think it's a great place to start, and not just presenting in the community, but attending the 1 Million Cups. I don't know if you just attend regularly, because it'll be a great way to start making connections and letting people know that you do have this wonderful option for product development. So one of my questions is, what will Corsa look like when you get to where you're going?
There would be enough projects, broad enough projects, that there would be a staff, an ebb and flow sort of staff. The way this usually works is it's an on-demand resource for the client. And because of the nature of ebb and flow of these projects, the staff at Corsa would be ebb and flow as well. So what I've found works well is you find a lot of people that are either close to retirement or retired, and that's a workforce that's highly experienced, but doesn't mind working for 3 months solid on a project and then taking a 6-week rest. And one of the ways that works, and it's just a financial necessity, is that staff has to be paid pretty well to have the incentive to wait for the next project. So and there's been, Corsa is mostly me when it comes to doing the actual work right now, but there has been a contractor on a project, and I think that there will be more. Corsa made it through COVID, and for a new company like this to make it through COVID, I feel like that the hardest year ever is sort of behind Corsa, that first year, and then having it intertwined with COVID. But it was very educational, and I see this year as already being a lot better than last year.
One of my other questions is, what types of partnerships are you looking for? You mentioned how, those team members would have to be paid pretty well. So you probably would need a really good partnership with a big enough company that can make sure that your needs can be taken care of, however many team members and the operations costs and things like that. So what would be that ideal big company for you?
So is that big company a client? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it would be a client, so that
So
you can continue to work with those smaller companies.
Well, it wouldn't have to necessarily be a big, I mean, it could be, right? But it really has more to do with having multiple small or medium-sized projects. The size of the company and the size of the project are not directly coupled, is what we'd say in engineering. But you're right. You're not wrong. A large company, an Abbott or a Stryker Medical, something like that, if they had a certain trickle of work that came to Corsa, then that does provide a base operating, capital, so that you can then not worry about the rent and the basic expenses, and you can push towards those startup type companies that really are quite exciting, again, because they're going from zero to something, and you never know where they're going to end up. So the ideal company, a large Fortune 500 medical company, would be great for that type of client that would enable stability within Corsa. Sure.
Perfect. All right, it looks like we have a question and comment. Amy, do you want to ask that one?
Sure, I'll come off mute. So creating tangible prototypes is really important for budding businesses. So it's super important what you're doing. What industries do you work the most with, or like who are you looking to work the most with? You know, medical, government.
Medical is what I have the most experience with. I what I thought would be 70 to 80% medical in the year of COVID dropped to about 20 to 25% medical, because I would take any project last year. This year, every all the major projects that I have going right now are either medical directly or health related, more of a health consumer type product. So, and that's a space that, I like to be in. You feel like you're doing the world some good, potentially when you're in that space. But there are other fun things too. I really like all types of engineering. I like automotive. I like aircraft. But my experience, I worked for a company called Flex Medical for 10 years, and at Flex, I was exposed to almost all the major healthcare companies, and did a lot of drug delivery systems, stuff like that.
That's really interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. I only asked because my grandpa is actually an engineer as well, and he did development for many years. He's retired now, but thank you for sharing that.
Sure. And there's a lot of good, experienced people out there that don't want to work full time anymore, but can still offer a lot. And if you give them a very flexible schedule, you can, and if you're flexible on location, because a lot of engineering can be done off site, there's a lot of expertise available out there.
And I do have a follow-up question really quickly before we go to Angela's question. I'm sorry. I do want to ask also about, when you're talking about larger clients, would you ever consider working in-house for a larger company?
Yeah, for the right project and the right client, I might think about it. The problem with if it's a full-time job at their site is that it doesn't let me pursue the next project very well. So you're not able to line up the next project. You're not able to service your smaller clients. So I'd never say never, but that's not the ideal situation because of exactly that. Maybe you have a year contract with them and you're there all the time, and then the contracts can abruptly end in engineering. Happens all the time. And now you're in a situation where nobody's heard from you in a year and you haven't pursued anyone else. And that'd almost be like starting over. So that, like I said, it had to be the right client, the right situation for me to consider that. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
But I mean, my client, if the local clients that I have, it's not uncommon for me to be on site a couple times a week, right? So it's not that they never see me if they're local. It's that for them to treat me like I'm a direct employee and be there 40 or 50 hours a week is, potentially not good for Corsa.
Mhm. Let's see, I think Angela's question was, what sets your company apart from competitors?
There's two or three things that do, and one is that for a small firm, Corsa has a lot of in-house capabilities. The ability to print components, which is in the room back here in the lab, and there's three fairly large 3D printers, and there's going to be more added to that. So there's been a lot of investment into infrastructure at Corsa. In fact, what I'm working on right now is a CNC mill. So we're going to have in-house CNC capabilities, and that would, and as soon as the mill is set up, then a CNC lathe will be ordered. And the reason for this is that in engineering, you make lots of mistakes. That's what you do. And you want to make them early and you want to recover from them quickly. It's expensive to make them later. And so the ability to print something in the same time it would take to maybe get a quote to print something. So for smaller parts, I can have it printed in an hour right here. So, or machined, you know, in an hour. I have a manual mill and a manual lathe now. So changes can be made here in-house, and that works as time compression. So that's one of the things that sets Corsa off. Not only are there tools in place now, but the idea is to add a lot more tools. Once in-house injection molding will be after the CNC lathe. The ability to make, when I'm going to say feasible engineering level parts, that they would not be production level parts, but to be able to mold components and not have to go through all these layers. You know, we talk a lot about outsourcing and how efficient it is. If we outsource everything, we see that it spreads out the process so much that the schedule suffers, and therefore the cost, every layer has to make a profit on everything you're doing. But vertical integration, which is the old way of doing business, I think it has some merit.
Mm-hmm. So that sounds great. And this was a really good presentation. I think that this is an awesome alternative, and it lowers barriers of access for entrepreneurs, especially startup entrepreneurs. I would
People
like
are
to.
paralyzed is what
Mhm,
happens. You know, they have an idea and they get paralyzed. And that's why I have the page that I have up right now is my entrepreneurial special.
mhm.
$299, and it at least gets you started, you know, and because that first step is often the hardest. I mean, we know that as entrepreneurs too, right? It's just
Right.
that first step can be difficult. There's a cost. Who do you go to, and how much is it going to cost? And you know, so I'm agreeing
Yeah.
with you. I'm adding.
Yes. One of my suggestions would be, because I have a background in experiential marketing, would be to see about getting a table at the different expos, small business expos. You
Mhm.
probably have already thought about that. But because that is your target demographic, it'll be, a target rich environment. In
Sure.
any other local small business conventions where you can get a table to display and show a demo of what you have. Angela said Clubhouse, where you can meet entrepreneurs and talk about this and attract people who need a product development firm, because a lot of entrepreneurs are on Clubhouse, and you could go on there and start a talk about what it is that you do and let people ask you questions. It's a great way to find new clients. So those are two of my suggestions. And one came from Angela, sorry, Angela. The one on the experiential marketing, if you want more insight into that, I can talk to you about it. It's really easy to get started with that. So I would definitely be looking into, if I were you, looking into any business expos that were coming to Dallas, especially.
Right. I like those, and I've been to them. This last year has been challenging for those types of things.
Right.
You know, you had mentioned before about Million Cups. So I'm in Plano, and Frisco Million Cups used to be actually in Plano. They used to physically have their meetings in Plano. It's now
Mhm.
shifted to Frisco. So that's the one that I usually, if I'm going to go to a Million Cups in the morning, that's the one I usually go to. Again, proximity. You know, I liked it better when you actually went physically. Um,
Yeah.
it's more fun to meet people face to face to me, but we do our best with what we've got. So yeah,
Mhm.
I'm going to look into that, and I'm going to look into Clubhouse because I don't know anything about that. But I do like giving. I like sharing what I know. You know,
Mhm.
a lot of people in this industry and in the type of work that I've done have been very guarded about what they know. And what I've found is the more open I am, I think the more success I have. When people are guarded, I think it creates false success. And I want to tell you why I feel that way. I'm gonna get philosophical and kind of sappy just for a second, and then I'll be quiet for a minute.
Mhm.
There's in agriculture, agribusiness, in manufacturing, which engineering is a component of manufacturing, and in mining, In other words, getting valuables out of the earth. Wealth is created in all three of those activities. All other activities in business are really pushing money from one side of the table to the other. Now, that doesn't mean that's bad. I don't want to sound negative. That money enables people to do other things. But you know, on my website, what I said is helping you create something worth more than the sum of its parts. That's what we strive to do in any type of manufacturing, any activity. Making collection of wealth is not the same thing as creation of wealth. Now, I want to be part of that creation of wealth, because in the long run, that's the only way we lift those at the bottom in poverty out, is by creation of more wealth.
All right, I totally agree, 100%. Well, that was a great presentation, wonderful service. Thank you so much for coming and spend time to let us hear about that.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely you're the only product development firm that I know of that caters to entrepreneurs. So I'm definitely going to keep my ears to the streets and recommend you whenever I hear of anyone having those types of needs. I wanted to ask anyone who has any announcements to come off of mute and let us know if you have any events coming up or anything going on. I just wanted to say Marketing Gems is going to be at 11 a.m. We're going to talk about the secrets of marketing from Coca-Cola and what small business owners can learn from them. Anyone else have any announcements? Any meetings or anything like that? Okay. All right, perfect. Well, with that, go ahead. Who is that? Thought I saw something in the chat. Oh, and ToroNet is on Friday at 1 p.m. I'm going to talk about being a product specialist at 12 noon on Friday. And if you want that information on the Zoom link, go ahead and message me for that. Otherwise, I want to thank you all again for coming. This recording will be made available soon, Tom. So you'll see that you're following us. Are you following us on Facebook? And Samuel?
If I'm not, I will be, because I'm
Yes.
following some others, but I don't know if I'm following Fort Worth. But I will.
Follow us, and you'll see your post with your video up there, or we can send it directly to us. Just let us know.
Sure.
All right, everyone. Thank you again for coming. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Have a good